that was the musical stylings of Neon White. If you thought that was good, and would like to listen more, please go listen to it on Spotify. If you thought it was really good, and think it's a good soundtrack, evidently, the Game Awards does not think that. So, first off, if you don't know how this works, and this is assuming they are truthful to their word, we can vote on stuff, but our vote only matters about 10%. The other 90% is a panelist of judges. Now, let me quickly talk about my personal opinions on judging like this. In a general, in a vacuum, I'd say this is a good thing. I'll be blunt. People are stupid. I'm stupid. We should not be doing popularity votes for major awards. One, we don't know what the essentially grading the judging criteria is for stuff like this. Most people won't. They choose their favorite, what they think's their favorite, without actually looking into that category and which game probably deserves to win said category. They just pick their favorite game regardless of what they think of that category. However, clearly, the people that are judging these are just as biased as we are. Whether that be maybe some money under the table, or they're just biased. They want to go for the AAA, yeah. We don't know if they go off of a judging criteria when they choose both the nominees as well as the winners. We don't know. Throughout the years, it's been pretty apparent that they're, like other award shows and other creative mediums like movies, TV shows, music, there are plenty of things that get snubbed, whether it's overlooked or, yeah, mostly overlooked, I guess you could say. It's one of those things of, on paper, having a unbiased, which will literally never happen, group of judges that are extremely knowledgeable in the topic they're judging makes a lot more sense than thousands to millions of people that just choose, I like this game. But that's on paper, and like I said, everyone has biases, you cannot eliminate them. When I try to eliminate my bias, I'm still biased. I state that I'm attempting to look at it from another viewpoint. And you'll see that a lot while we're going through these, because like I said earlier, there's a lot of games that I personally have not gotten a chance to play, or literally just came out. When am I gonna get a chance to play it? As you'll see, they tend to go for a certain subsection of video games, and by that I mean super high quality AAA games, and that in and of itself is a problem for multiple reasons, and we'll get into it as we get to the actual games. Like I said, we'll start from the bottom up, so we'll start with Best Esports Event. And we're starting off strong. I'll fucking watch esports. I don't like sports. I don't like watching competitive gaming. I don't like watching competitive sports. Throwing a ball around and maybe hitting a ball is not my idea of fun, and sitting there watching people be sweaty tryhard at each other against a game, not my idea of fun. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I did hear that the League of Legends World Championship actually had an amazing final match. Now, I've heard this from people who actually play League, and I'm gonna take their word for it. Best esports coach. I don't know these people. Best esports team. I don't watch this. We're just gonna skip forward. Best esports athlete. I don't watch any of these. We're skipping through it. Best esports game. Here's the thing. Most of these games, I personally hate. I do not like Dota. I do not like League. I do not like Valorant. I don't like Counter-Strike for similar reasons why I don't like Valorant. I don't like what I call positional shooters. They're not my style of game. And then Rocket League, I don't know how the I know there's a very large esports side to Rocket League, but I don't know how it actually compares to the other ones. I'll pity vote for Rocket League. I'll throw them a bone for being, you know, a completely different type of game from the other ones. Go Rocket League. All right, most anticipated game. We all know what's winning this. If you think anything else is winning, You are dead wrong. Starfield is the only one that can come close to beating Legend of Zelda. Also, Hogwarts Legacy comes out in like, doesn't it come out like a week after the cutoff? Oh, never mind. They pushed it back. Okay, that makes a lot more sense that it's on anticipated games if it comes out in February. Best adaptation. The only two that even have that are in like leagues with each other and have a chance at overtaking the other at winning is Arcane and Cyberpunk. I love the Cuphead show. I really enjoyed Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And Uncharted is an awful adaptation, but I'm not gonna lie, I had some fun with it. Here's the problem between Arcane and Cyberpunk. Now, I can't speak for the authenticity that came from Arcane, but it's a little hard to adapt a MOBA that is massive into a TV show. If we take the adaptation portion out of Arcane, like if we took the whole faithfully and authenticate an adapted video game, I feel like Arcane would win by a landslide. But this is assuming they are looking at how the adaptation was in comparison to the game. In which case, Arcane's inherently at a disadvantage because it had nothing to do with the gameplay of League, like, at all. Sure, you had, like, I guess you could say the origin story of a few of the characters, but they're not on a battlefield fighting each other in teams. So, like, you could inherently disqualify it because of that. But Arcane is a masterpiece. Like, again, I absolutely hate League. Hate the game. I hate MOBAs. I hate League. Arcane is an extremely good show that you do not need any prior knowledge. I went into Arcane with no knowledge of League, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. Now, Cyberpunk, as an adaptation and showing the world from Cyberpunk, it did a better job than Arcane. But, again, that goes back into the inherent problem. What the hell do you do with a MOBA and try to authentically adapt it? Because they weren't trying to adapt the game. They were adapting part of the world and the characters. I feel like the vote should go to Cyberpunk, but Arcane is such a visual masterpiece. I think that trumps the lack of authenticity of the video game adaptation. So I'm definitely going to go for Arcane. But honestly, I think it's a toss-up between these two simply due to this right here. I think this is what allows Cyberpunk to potentially win over Arcane. Oh geez. So, first off, I have only personally played Neon White. Sue me. I haven't had time to play the other the willingness to drop money to play the others. I've heard Tunic is a fantastic game, and from what I've seen of it and Stray, they are both very, very good. I do not know what Norco is, and just looking at Vampire Survivors, that is 100% not my personal style of game. My guess is it would be between Stray and Tunic. Is because Stray is in like 7 categories. It has been nominated for— Stray is nominated for Game of the Year, for God's sake. Stray, from what I've seen, is a massive undertaking for a debut. That's a good point. That's actually something to factor in. Stray looks phenomenal, especially for a first-time studio and an indie dev. I'm going to put Neon White, but that is my bias showing, because one, I think Neon White deserves a lot of recognition. It is a great game. It has a fantastic soundtrack. They got Steve Blum to voice the main character, which is pretty cool. And for being as minimalistic as the visuals are very good. I'm gonna vote for Neon White. Everyone who is a fan already has asked this. Why isn't Jerma on here? Why has Jerma never been on here? But I guess it's because for a streamer or content creator who has made an important and positive impact in the community in 2022. And you know what? I'll say it. As entertaining as Jerma has been, he hasn't really done a lot for positive, quote-unquote, positive impact. And again, don't get me wrong, I love watching Jerma. He's the only streamer I really watch. But I understand not being good there. Now, someone please correct me here. I tried looking into this. I couldn't find anything about this. How the hell is Nebelion considered a content creator? Didn't he just kind of post gaming news and then, you know, until recently where he shut down his Twitter and Patreon? What does he do now? What did he do before to be a quote-unquote content creator? I can understand important and positive impact on the community, because this whole thing was giving you succinct, to the second, up-to-date gaming news. And yeah, I, like many people, really appreciated his Twitter account, but I feel like there's a serious difference between a streamer, a YouTuber, and what's essentially a reporter, is what he was, or journalist. Yeah, there's a lot of content creators that I'm pretty sure are eliminated from even getting a chance at a nomination simply due to their brand or their personality not really being upbeat most of the time, relatively clean. Like, come on, if you've watched Charlie's stuff, you've probably seen at least one video about all of his dildos. I guess I'll vote for Ludwig, because I'm sorry, Nebelion, I just don't know. I've never liked this award. It's an extremely subjective award, and as you can tell from the selections here, it is a really far-reaching award as to who can be nominated for it. Best multiplayer game. You know, I haven't played Splatoon 3, but it's just Splatoon 2 2.0, so I mean, I know how it plays. I don't want to vote on this category. I've played a bit of Multiverses in the first month it came out, and it's gonna sound asinine, but the way Multiverses felt, I actually preferred how Nicktoons All-Star Brawl felt. It's gonna sound insane because Multiverses, like, unobjectively has a higher quality to it. But there was just something about it that I didn't like how it felt. Multiverses said, fuck it, if WB owns it or can license it, we're throwing it in there. That's why you got Shaggy and Batman fighting each other. You got, I think the Wicked Witch of the West is coming out as a character for the Wizard of Oz. I think Marvin Martian is the next one. We've got Gizmo, Rick and Morty, friggin' Arya Stark. Like, it's such an asinine concept of all these characters that are able to be pulled into the game simply because WB owns them. In terms of being able to be repeated, I guess I'm voting for Splatoon 3. Overwatch 2, you're not getting a vote from me at all. Fuck you, you do not deserve to be in here. One of these is not like the other, and simply because of that, I am voting for it. It will not win. Yeah, it's like comparing Borderlands to Call of Duty. Okay, best sim strategy. I don't like these sorts of simulation also, the more I'm thinking about it, the weirder this category is, because this would mean this would be where a Fire Emblem game went, because Mario Rabbids is in there, and it's the same type of game. So they're putting essentially tactical RPGs in with straight up simulators. Was this how the category always was? Because this is weird. This is really weird. I don't get it. Am I crazy? Am I the only one that doesn't understand why these two are thrown together? This is such a weird category, so fuck this category. I'm giving it to Mario and Rabbids. Fuck this category. This is a horrible category. All right, let's talk about Nintendo. Let's fucking talk about this. So, unless you are a mainline Mario game or a Zelda game, you are never getting out of the best family category if you are a Nintendo game. It is never happening, and I hate that that's how it goes. Because Kirby and the Forgotten Land is a fantastic game, and it deserves at least one other category. But Kirby has never gotten awards. People like all the family games just see it as it's a kid's game. We'll write it off. It's not worth it. And like, yeah, okay, in some regards, because you arbitrarily have to compare the likes of Kirby and the Forgotten Land with God of War Ragnarok, one of those probably can't stand against the other for multiple reasons. And you know what? I get that. But it's really weird that most Nintendo games almost never get out of the family category. They're always, it's almost like the family category is the animation category of the video game awards. Because like the Oscars animation category, they don't give a shit. They throw all the kid shit in there. The kid stuff does not come out of animation, regardless of any achievements in any other areas. It is a kids only, we are only putting it in the animation. And that's what it feels like the family category is. And I hate that. Because Kirby and the Forgotten Land, like I said, great game. Splatoon 3's gotten out because it's a multiplayer shooter. So hence why it's in the other category, and I think it's in one more. And previous years I've talked about the family category, and it's like, it's not as bad of a category as the last one, which was Sim and Strategy. Just because that category doesn't make any goddamn sense. But this is a confusing category as to, like, how are you supposed to judge these games? Because the definition blurb they give us is best game appropriate for family play, irrespective of genre or platform. Now, I believe that they change the blurbs like every year, so, but who knows about the actual judging criteria? Because there are like two ways you can look at family games. There's it's a family-friendly game. It's for the whole family can enjoy it in terms of you're not shooting people in the head in Russia. It's not like that. Or do you look at it like the whole family can play, everyone can join in regardless of the skill level? Like Nintendo Switch Sports would win in that case. I don't know how to look at this category, and I don't think anyone that's not on the committee knows. Actually, you know what? Honestly, what am I saying? The committee probably doesn't know how to look at this category either. They probably just say, oh, I've heard great things about this child's game. We'll give it to that. Because I honestly don't think Switch Sports should get any recognition. My vote goes to Kirby, because Kirby can be played with the family. Even though you can't get all 4 or 5 people, you can still get, like, your little brother to play with you, and get him to stop complaining to mom you're not letting him to play, because he won't ruin your time playing Bandanity. Best fighting game. So I've already had this conversation in Discord about, like, oh, Sifu's not a fighting game. So here's the thing. If we completely took out this thing where it's best game designed primarily for head-to-head combat, probably technically Shifu would be disqualified. But if we're taking this as fighting game genre, Shifu would be qualified, because while it's more considered a beat-em-up game, a beat-em-up is basically a subgenre of the fighting category. And this is where categories of genres get really muddled. And take it from someone who has had to go through like 200 or 300 games and try and give the game a genre for the music panel I do, because we give them the genre. It's like fighting can be likened to a genre like action or action-adventure, which if you go to Wikipedia, like 80% of games are titled action or action-adventure. And in a sense, a beat-em-up can be considered a fighting game. You are literally punching the shit out of people. But because they say specifically head-to-head combat, and while there is head-to-head combat in Sifu, technically, I'm pretty sure they mean, like, real people, like PvP, in which case Shifu shouldn't be on there. RPG. in theory, could be basically every game. Basically. Just because it's considered role-playing game, and holy shit, that's a lot of games. But that's where like JRPG comes in as a subgenre, or tactical RPG, stuff like that. It helps define a game a little bit better into, like I said, subgenres. So that's where Shifu's a little bit weird and why it's even here. And I do agree, like, it probably shouldn't be here, but there is still an argument for it being in this category. I haven't played the JoJo game, I'm not gonna lie. And didn't DNF Duel, like, die as soon as it came out? Isn't there, like, nobody playing that game? Yeah, the awards are meaningless, because what is the best game depends on who you ask by that. Yeah, no, any award show is subjective. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. Hence why all of my subjective opinions are basically negative around stuff like this, because I don't think their subjective opinions are good. Would you kill me if I put Shifu just because it's different? Like, sure, it doesn't really line up with what they're wanting, but it is a unique game, and there is no doubt about it. Yeah, screw you guys. I'm going for the creative one. Alright, best role-playing game. I mean, I could tell you straight up which one is immediately disqualified, and that is Pokemon Legends Arceus. And that is coming from someone who has played the entire goddamn game. I enjoyed the game. It is not award-worthy, though. I've heard Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is really, really good. But I mean, we all know what's going to win. We know what's going to sweep every category it is in. It's going to be Elden Ring. So, let's do this one based off of the blurb. For best game design with rich player character customization and progression, including massively multiplayer experience. What does this mean? What the fuck does massively multiplayer experience consider? Was that for Final Fantasy a few years back? Because that's probably what it was for. A good RPG is good regardless of whether it's single or multiplayer. Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. It's such a weird thing to include when, at minimum, maybe one of your nominations can count. And even then, I don't think that counts under that title. But like, role-playing game, it's going to Elden Ring. It definitely has rich player character customization because you can go like whatever path you want in terms of how you want to fight. As well as, it probably has the most rewarding progression, but that's kind of a given with how the Dark Souls series and style games work. But in general, I think it's probably the best one for what they're looking at, or what they say they're looking at. And like I said, even though I played Arceus, and I enjoyed it, absolutely not. Nope, nothing, no awards. Don't give it to it. I enjoyed it, but it was basically a tech demo. Why isn't Triangle Strategy and Strategy Game segment? But that is a great question. That is a fantastic question and shows how fucked up that category is. Anyhow, best action, going off in the, along with the fighting game as to, this is a wide ass, like, type of games it could be. Action adventure is most games. It's basically anything that's not like a puzzle game. My guess is it's probably gonna end up going to Ragnarok, but I haven't actually seen enough of Ragnarok to make a decision. My guess, though, it's probably a tighter gameplay experience than Forbidden West. Take it from someone who did play the entire, or well, Paige and I played through the entirety of Forbidden West, back and forth. Forbidden West has a lot of fluff. There is so many goddamn collectibles in that game, it's not even funny. Like, as much as I enjoy Forbidden West, it has a lot of excess stuff that just should be sheared off. And I'm guessing that Ragnarok won't have that much. Honestly, I'm gonna throw the bone at Tunic, as much as I enjoyed Forbidden West. Best action game. I think we all know which one I'm putting this one down for. I believe this is the only category that Bayonetta 3 is in. which I guess it makes sense. But like, this is okay. So this is even worse than action adventure, because at least that one has two genres that it has to meet. Action is one genre, and it is literally anything where you that is anything. That's why we got Bayonetta 3, Call of Duty, Neon White, which is a time trial shooter, Sifu, which is a beat 'em up, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is also a beat 'em up. So like, this is such a wild category. Yeah, action is an incredibly vague genre. I don't know how the hell you compare this. I'm putting Neon White just to get it over with, focusing on the combat. Which, actually, in that case, it's a little weird with Neon White because, yeah, Neon White is the least combat heavy of the whole bunch. Christ, I hate this category. Since Neon White's primary thing is speedrunning, and you do shoot like enemies, they're static enemies that the way the game is created, you are meant to memorize the levels, and therefore you immediately eliminate any enemies as long as you memorize the level, basically. Best AR/VR. This is one of those ones that, like, I'm fine with them combining because there's no way in hell they're gonna have enough games to make an AR category. Among Us is Among Us. Fucking, I swear, if Among Us wins again, I am still so angry that Among Us won for the mobile game in 2020. I'll give it to Bone Lab. I think it has at least of the ones I know, it has the most impressive stuff. Okay, so I can't comment on the accessibility category. No knowledge on how these games are made accessible. I could take a pretty damn good guess as to how The Last of Us Part 1 is accessible, because I'm guessing it's exactly the same as Part 2 from last year. There's no way it's not. The whole thing was, we're gonna make The Last of Us Part 1 on the Part 2 engine. Bam. So, in that case, it's probably amazing, but it's also not innovative. And this is innovation in accessibility, and I'm guessing they have just reused the systems from the first one, which I think it won. It was legitimately very innovative accessibilities for Last of Us Part 2. I will give them that. That was like the one thing I'm like, yeah, you know what, absolutely take it. You deserve it. How can God of War be considered accessible when it's only that's not what accessibility means. My man, accessibility doesn't mean you could play it on every console. It's literally handicap accessibility. I'm gonna skip this one for now because I have no knowledge to vote. Best community support. I feel like I'm just obligated to put No Man's Sky. Okay. If you know me, you know what I'm gonna put. And it's not even close. First off, this should not be in this category whatsoever. Get it out of here. If this wins, I think most people are gonna blow a gasket. Granted, if this wins, people are gonna blow a gasket. All right, best indie. This is probably, in my opinion, the most stacked category, not including Game of the Year. I feel like I'm obligated to go for Neon White again. Indie is not a game category. It's a company category, or lack thereof. It literally can be anything as long as it wasn't made by a large company. Best ongoing. You guys are gonna kill me. And I will continue to defend my point on this because they've put a lot of goddamn effort into the game. I don't care if it's a gacha. They have put a lot of content and effort into the game. Games for impact. I have no opinion. I don't know any of these games. And usually that's what the Games for Impact category is, because it's always this isn't stuff that any AAA developer would make. It would never happen. The like closest you could get is probably Life is Strange in that company. That's probably the closest you'd ever get. Okay, performance. Let me guess, it's gonna go to Christopher Judge. It probably will, because God of War is the current hot new game. And although I'm sure his performance is incredible, regardless. But it's the hot new game. Once again, I have experience with one of these. I have personally experience Forbidden West. Ashley Birch has to play 3 completely different characters in Forbidden West, and she does a fantastic job at distinguishing them, as well as her performance in general. Best audio design. I've heard Gran Turismo's amazing. I'll probably just give it to that, because I'm sure Forbidden West's audio design was very good. On a PS5, I had the unfortunate experience of having to play Forbidden West on a PS4 Slim. We ran into constant bugs, many of which included audio bugs, where sound effects would just stop until restarting. And that's obviously a hardware problem, that's not the game's problem. But because of that experience, I don't actually know how good the audio design in Forbidden West is. Alright, this is the one I've been waiting for. Let's talk about soundtrack. So, I have consistently hated the nominations for this category. And I think I've come to realize why. Most of the games that they look at for soundtrack are games that are AAA. These are games that have budgets. These are games that have so much money to throw out to the music department and just say, go hog wild, hire full orchestras, hire full professional opera singers, whatever, what have you. They get grand pieces that are complex due to the amount of musicians they can hire, and they're basically the equivalent of a movie soundtrack. Elden Ring, grand epic music whenever it plays a song. God of War Ragnarok, 100% grand epic music. Plague Tale, I'm guessing, is too. I have not heard anything from the soundtrack. And Xenoblade is definitely a bit lower on that scale, but it's still 100% in that grand epic scale. I mean, look, sweeping landscapes. Of course it has, like, a sweeping soundtrack to go along with it. And then we have Hellsinger. Now, here's my theory. I feel like they put Hellsinger in there because they felt obligated to. Because Hellsinger is, like, bar none, the most unique soundtrack out of this whole category, both in style and implementation for obvious reasons. If you don't know, Metal Hellsinger is a first-person rhythm shooter like BPM. You play to the beat of the music. And so, of course, it had to have an amazing soundtrack. Now, me personally, I'm personally not into metal. However, I can 100% see the effort and how good it is if I take away my bias for not liking heavy metal. It is an incredible soundtrack. It's just not my taste. Here is my issue with the current nominations. Neon White 100% got snubbed. It is really good. They clearly know the game exists because it's in like 2 or 3 categories, but it did not get a music thing. And I think it's because they want grand movie-like style orchestras, which is why I think Hellsinger was kind of like, we're throwing you guys a bone here. Here's something different. I have a big issue with that. I also personally think that Frontiers probably deserved a nomination for score and only score. It should not have been put into any other category. Only the score. Because the soundtrack in that game is very good. But Neon White 100% got snubbed. It absolutely should have been in Best Score in Music. So, let me roll back the clock a little bit. Let's go back to 2020. Alright, yes. Final Fantasy VII Remake won. So, I rated about this, like, when it happened. No doubt, amazing score. It's Final Fantasy, but that's the problem. It's Final Fantasy VII. We already know it has an amazing music track. Like, it's a given. It's Final Fantasy VII. It's been around for, like, 2 decades. They gave it essentially an orchestration, and it won over Doom Eternal, which is in the same vein as Metal Hellsinger. Well, Same vein in terms of they're both metal soundtracks. Hades also has an incredible soundtrack. Fantastic vocal tracks in that game. I'd even say The Last of Us Part 2 had a good soundtrack. And then, of course, Ori Will of the Wisp had one too. But they gave it to Final Fantasy VII, who's basically had its score around for like 20 years. Now, that's not my only problem with this. This is the year that Genshin Impact came out. Now, hear me out. And I've talked about this at length before. Genshin Impact, like Neon White, got massively snubbed. Now, please, for the time being, take out the fact it's a gacha. Take that out. Don't think it's a mobile game, because yes, it is on mobile, but it is a fully functioning PC, PS4, PS5 game. It runs on all of those devices. So let's talk about why it, at the very least, deserved to be nominated, but instead only got shoved into mobile game because that's all anyone in the industry ever sees it as. I was already ready for this. So, keep in mind what I said before about them preferring grand sweeping orchestras. And I'm gonna play this recording session from the second region, which was in the game at the time, Battle Theme. I'll let it play a bit and then I'll start talking about Genshin's music. Yes, Genshin is more than a mobile game, but not according to the industry. As I said, this is a recording session for this song. This is the song that plays in the second region, which launched with the game. And the second region is, if you can't tell, based on China. Now here's the thing. Regardless of your opinions on the fact that Genshin is a gacha, the artistic side of the game, they put a lot of effort into it, as you can see from the music. This is the fucking Shanghai Symphony Orchestra. This is the Philharmonic Orchestra of Shanghai or Beijing, whatever. So I'm obviously taking into account what existed in 2020 because that's what they judged it on. So I'm not going to be talking about Inazuma or I won't be talking about the other two regions because those came out after the fact. They got, for the first two regions, the London Philharmonic Orchestra and then this one to perform the two different regions' soundtracks. They fucking deserved a nomination at the very least. They're like, I think even Yupeng Chen, who is the composer to all the main songs, they have a few different composers for some of the smaller stuff, but he's like the composer for the actual game. I believe he stated he was incredibly disappointed he wasn't getting recognition from any of the stupid media outlets because the man fucking deserves it! Look at this! Listen to this! It is a great soundtrack, and it should have been nominated, but due to the category of game, and, you know, probably the stigma that it came from a Chinese company, it didn't. And I'm not saying go play Genshin. I don't really ever advocate for that, but I am saying listen to the soundtrack. It is an amazing, amazing soundtrack. Alright, I'm giving it to Metal Hellsinger, obviously. After that whole rant, you could probably guess. Like I said, I'm not personally a metal person, but I can 100% see how great it is. Yeah, oh, yeah, Among Us won mobile for that year. Genshin didn't win, because Among Us had a mobile release that year. It was great. I could see Xenoblade winning too, but I feel like just Ragnarok, again, more recency bias than like any of the games on here, because it literally came out last week, is just going to sweep because it's also God of War and it's also Sony and it also has a shit ton of money behind it. Best art direction? I feel like Scorn only really wins in the creative portion of this category. well, creative/artistic design, they go hand in hand. I haven't gotten to play a lot of games for many reasons, but the extent of my experience and knowledge viewing Scorn is through Germa's playthrough. I'll give it to Scorn. It's not like my vote matters anyhow, but we'll give it to that. Narrative. Ragnarok just came out. How many people are gonna know the like full narrative of the story? I've gotta give it to Forbidden West simply because that's the one I know the best, and in my opinion, it was a very good story. I definitely was more invested in Forbidden West as opposed to Zero Dawn's story. But Zero Dawn kind of had to establish stuff. Zero Dawn had a lot of really, really cool concepts, but it had to establish a lot, and Forbidden West was able to build off of what was already established. Game direction. This is another pretty damn vague category. Awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game design and... Oh. Okay. In game direction and design, we all know who is winning this. There is no doubt about it. Elden Ring is winning. Game of the year.
So, not Stray?
Not Stray. I'm sorry, Stray. I don't even know why you're in here. You're a good
really
game.
Bad for it. Like, Stray, you're just kind of outclassed here.
Yeah, like, Stray, I swear to God, if they're like, oh, we gotta pull a It Takes Two again, give it to the indie game. Because It Takes Two 100% deserve that. Stray does not. I'm sorry to anyone that's a fan of Stray. It does not deserve Game of the Year.
Likelihood of winning? I think it's God of War, Elden Ring, Plague Tale, Horizon, Xenoblade, Stray.
I do feel like God of War has an edge over Elden Ring simply due to recency bias, and it sucks. Elden Ring, I think most people, you know, with any sense would agree is the more innovative game. Because Ragnarok is basically... Ragnarok and Forbidden West are in the same boat. They are building upon what the previous game sort of started. So eliminated entirely. I'm eliminating Forbidden West and Stray. Stray is just an immediate elimination. I'm sorry, it shouldn't be in Game of the Year. It's super outclassed here. And Forbidden West had a lot of problems in the gameplay. But I don't like RPGs. Listen, I tried to get into Chronicles 2 times. Two separate occasions. Could not get into it. I gave up on the definitive edition. It's just not my type of game. It's not my type of narrative, I guess. But I've heard Xenoblade 3 is incredible. But the problem is, it's probably under the same sort of spotlight as it is for me, in which case it's... I don't want to say less accessible. It's a less likely game for casual people to pick up. Unless like Xenoblade comes and just sneaks into it and sweeps it, it's between Elden Ring and Ragnarok most likely.
Yeah. My vote is for Elden Ring.
Yeah, I think I'd vote for Elden Ring too, even though I kind of don't want to. Just simply because it's definitely going to have more of an industry impact than Ragnarok. And I think that's the only reason I'm willing to try it is because it's faster than Dark Souls. I cannot stand how Dark Souls controls and how the pace is. I'm sorry, it's not my type of game, but I'm willing to give Elden Ring a shot. When it goes on sale, which is probably gonna be never.